Hello everyone, thank you for tuning in. Again, I am Kaylee Bateman, the Content Director at Zühlke and Code, and today we are discussing navigating the intersection, being an ethnic minority and a woman. I'm lucky enough to have two amazing women from Zühlke with me today, Shen and Li, who are the first in their family to migrate to the UK from East Asia and are accomplished professionals in their own right. So today they're here to share their insights, challenges and triumphs. Welcome ladies, thank you so much for joining us today for a chat.
Thank you for having us.
We haven't had this topic on the podcast before, so I'm pleased that you've come on to have a chat with us about it and share your experiences. But can we kick off with a little bit of background about each of you, please, to set the tone for our ladies and set the scene. Li, should we start with you? Can we hear a little bit about you first, please?
Yeah, sure. My name is Li. I am a business consultant at Zühlke at the moment, specializing in service and experience design. I moved to the UK 16 years ago from the mainland China after completing my master's. So I was kind of really proudly 100% made in China and later developed my career path in the UK in such a thriving environment. So I always wanted to do design, and I love technology because it's very exciting. It's kind of taking me to a future-looking view. I'm just really enjoying working with people and crafting something people can use, and to make life better. Really, I think that's the wish to be a good designer.
Yeah, and you said you moved here after your master's. What did you study?
I studied design education.
Nice. And was that something that was always something that you wanted to do as a child, or did somebody encourage you at school?
I didn't enjoy design education because I was not patient enough, but it's kind of something about visualization, design, crafting things is always what I was really into. I actually was from 8 years old. I started trained as an artist, kind of because I was good at drawing, doodling. So my path was set up to be an artist. But I went through kind of training as an artist, then working on graphic design. Then I realized that I was really into something new, something exciting, then move on to media. When I moved over to the UK, iPhone launched, and that is where everything took off. Then I said, right, I want to get on it. And then I became a digital designer. From then, never stopped. That's how I got what I'm here.
You just said a load of words that people don't associate with technology as well. Design, art, everything you said was very creative. So you've got a really interesting background that I know our community are going to absolutely love from just a few words that you said there.
Thank you.
Shen, yourself, what about you? What's your background?
I am a engagement manager. That's my job title currently at Zühlke, which means to people who don't know what that means, it means like I'm predominantly focused on account sales and then the revenue growth of the account we have with our clients. I'm originally from Shanghai. I came to UK for my degree, actually, for my master degree. But that was in linguistics, so have nothing to do with technology. I was those people who were my major was like simultaneous translation. So you see those meetings, people sitting in the booth somewhere, like whispering to your ears. That was my job, but I didn't like the fact that it's probably mostly freelancing. So you don't have a steady income into a bank account. I felt like that was probably important. And also I would just be regurgitating other people's opinion, that I would never be able to have my own voice, so to speak. So yeah, I was one of those people who came to the UK to do a degree, thought, well, have a couple of years work experience, but end up never leaving. And that was 16 years ago. So yeah. My experience was predominantly in actually delivery space. So after I graduated, coincidentally, I started working for a SEO, PPC, so like a search marketing agency. And then I moved a role into actually digital project management in public sector. And then I also worked in startups and other consultancies. Before I landed my role in Zühlke.
Amazing. So our community absolutely loves to hear stories of ladies that perhaps didn't choose technology and fell into technology, and it sounds like that was kind of your route as well, and ladies that kind of choose that career path a little bit later on, and that they're still really successful, and it's something that you can, you know, choose later in your career and still land at a really good company. So what happened when you were doing SEO? What happened there between there and landing your role now? Did somebody kind of push you more into the tech industry in that direction, or what kind of happened in between that role and this role?
I think in one element is why during my first job, there were some technical things I needed to do just because there's nobody else to do it in the company. So I had to fiddle around with certain files, or, you know, how to learn regular expressions, how to learn how to manipulate, say, CSS, HTML, but it's not, all those things are kind of, because there's something has to happen, so you kind of got left with it. But what I really changed the role is just because I felt I couldn't see myself doing this forever in the agency and in the role I was doing, and I felt I was stuck mentally and also physically. So I moved into, I was just looking at what other roles is actually there. And then at the time I was looking for something quite different. And then the job I end up doing afterwards is in the digital department of a public sector organization. I actually needed to take a pay cut, move to another city, but it was an informed decision I was making because I just wanted to do something different completely. But it was paying off, I would say. It got me to expose kind of a more deeper into technology, and wanted to do things I wanted to do now. Yeah.
Yeah, definitely. I take it not a decision you look back on and think, I shouldn't have done that. It seems to have worked well for you. So brilliant, ladies. You both have really interesting backgrounds, and we have lots to cover off today. So I wanted to get going with, can you share some of your personal experiences as a first generation immigrant and a woman in the workplace? Li, should we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I think as a first generation immigrant woman, my experience actually is all about learn how to live in other people's world, put in a simple term. I think as particularly at workplace, I think it requires us to really have all the senses switched on all the time. For example, to listen, to watch, to observe, to analyze, and lots of practice. Sometimes I kind of describe, you know, in the movie, and I think it's the fifth element, the alien lady, you know, sort of start learning how to fitting into the, you know, the human environment, the community, watch how they speak and they move. Similar thing, really, you know, it's really to observe, you know, how people do things, how you know, from the very subtle thing, from something to something very obvious, to just to learn and practice. And also in the workplace, normally it requires speed and precision. So the time and space to really practice, absorb, and give it out is really, really constrained. So it requires us really to have everything turned on to quickly be able to land our points well. And most of the time, actually, it's very fascinating. But you know, when navigating through so many layers of differences, we're talking about even just in the same room. In a meeting with others, we have to navigate through the layer of difference of language, culture, upbringing, background, gender, profession. So people might not be aware how much we actually have to process, you know, to be able to contribute. Sometimes can be quite exhausting, but most of the time it's fascinating. But I think locally, I think in a way I kind of benefit from my profession as a designer and involved a lot of the user research. So we're kind of, you know, really used to that kind of way of observing and learning human behavior and to be able to practice on the spot. So I would say that the whole experience is just learn to really learn and absorb, and I find to find the best ways I can communicate myself.
Yeah.
Yeah,
that was a really nice way of phrasing that. I haven't heard that before. Having all your senses turned on at the same time. it sounds like a challenge, but also a good challenge and something that you have used in your work life as well, and just being more aware of that. So yeah, only working to your advantage there.
Yeah.
Shen, yourself, can you share some of your personal experiences as a first generation immigrant and a woman in the workplace?
Yeah, sure, of course. I think there was an element of, I was quite lucky that the workplace I work in are predominantly quite international. So although I might be the only Asian person or only Chinese person there, there's other people in similar situations. So you can kind of find your own tribe somewhere. But there's also always a kind of talking about personal experience, there's always a level of confidence thing needs to be built on. For example, like I just mentioned, I come from a language background. I thought my English was good enough when I came. But then, when I came to Yorkshire, Leeds was the first place I went to. Like I felt like I could hardly understand anybody what they're saying. I asked for direction. The people just eventually gave up on me after and he actually took me there, which was a really nice experience because people are super friendly. But I constantly get confused by little things like people calling me love, duck, or pet, like all those slangs you never were taught, like
that's confusing for anyone.
So the simple things. And then when you enter the workplace, at the time, instant messaging, it wasn't so prominent now. Like you have Teams, you have we're talking about Skype age, well, prior to that. So a lot of times that it took me a long time to build the confidence to pick up the phone, call my client, call my supplier, try to explain things to them. And it was, for a long time, I was really struggling with that. Like even coming from a language background, I thought I should be confident in it. So I think that's something gradually, and then you're translating to, like, in the meetings, do I share my opinions? Do I say what I want to say, or what should I behave in certain situations? And do people really hear me? Do I make myself clear? So there's a lot of kind of communication challenge probably will not come quite naturally with native speaker. They never needed to double think whether they got understood, whether they have made themselves clear in general senses, or the nuances of sarcasm, the nuances of hints. Did people agree on it, not or disagree in the meetings? All those tiny little things are. I think at the beginning of the career, it was just like quite overwhelming for me. But time is a wonderful thing that eventually it heals and make you forget a lot of things.
Yeah. Do you think as well, if you had been at the wrong company, you might not have found your confidence so quickly? It sounds like that, you've been on a journey where you at least felt supported and inclusive. So, and as you said, you found your tribe, and that kind of helped working at international companies as well. Do you think perhaps if you'd landed at the wrong company, then you wouldn't have felt so supported? It's very important to pick the right company, isn't it?
Yeah, so I think I wouldn't say I never had that experience. I once worked for an organization was very local. By local, I mean people work there predominantly come from Manchester or surrounding area. You can hear people from Wigan, or even they themselves have like little tribes, like where they come from. And I feel like that is, I wouldn't say that's the wrong company, but it's just becoming more challenging because you feel more excluded from this. A lot of reference they would have, a lot of just life experience they would have, or the things they talk about. It's not natural for a person like myself to join or contribute or add value to the conversation. But it's wonderful to listen to them. Just get to understand like what's actually going on in local people's life. Yeah.
Yeah.
Can I just add one thing to what Shen was saying? I totally agree in terms in the right company to have the environment, and also and to have the same mindset to do that, because I worked in small companies before and I was the only one of people from local. It's very challenging. And I want to add also technology also provided advantage as well, because I think the technology is a new language. It was not written before. You kind of break down laws of either you come from this area, you have this slang or have not. It's a new language. In a way, I find in the tech space, talk about technology, it's actually a lot easier when you're talking to people from any sort of background. So that's why I think tech company actually is a good opportunity for ethnic minority group. It's a new language. It breaks down lots of barriers. Sorry, that's just one of my
yeah, and an advantage for a team in technology to be from different backgrounds and have different experiences and to learn from each other, because you're absolutely right, in technology it really does break down barriers, and you can only learn from each other and move forward as a company if you have a diverse team that has lots of different thoughts and ideas from different backgrounds. So yeah, I definitely agree on the topic of technology being an advantage there, from people from different backgrounds. Talking of backgrounds, I wanted to dig into a little bit about cultural backgrounds. So how have your cultural backgrounds and upbringing influenced your approach to work and interactions with your colleagues? Li, should we start with you?
Yeah, sure. I come from a background, actually, education was the only way I can really kind of change my life. So I was kind of encouraged at a very early age to kind of dare to dream big and never give up. So kind of when I was young, I was the one always passionate about that thought, never give up. I want to dream as big as I can, even I came from nowhere. And so that kind of miraculously led to me to where I am now. But I think that I'm taking that kind of confidence to the work. I can really see that set me probably slightly different in a certain settings. I'm always kind of the one who can more kind of future looking. I'm not afraid of stepping into kind of uncertainty and unknowns, always excited about if I'm going to craft something from nowhere, that's kind of space I love. And so I think that's kind of influence on me with my background, especially coming from another culture. When you can make your life from another culture to a new culture, you put on a boost of confidence that I can do lots of other things, because that's already a big challenge itself, right? And I think my Chinese background, sorry, I wanted to mention is I think, and also the journey along, and I do feel really grateful for all the companies I work with, such as Zühlke, and all the people has helped me along the way. So that makes me kind of really appreciate when I'm in a multicultural environment, and similar colleagues, and they have the ego, wanted to learn. I'm kind of always happy to coach and help. The other part, I think, is my background. Typical Chinese background shaped me more kind of in diligence and putting group above individual and being righteous. Although sometimes that can be misunderstood, or it's a stereotype I have to kind of overcome. I'm sure Shen feels the same. But I think overall, I think does making us in a way quite easy to fit into the environment, but we focus a lot on how integrated with the rest of the team, with the culture. Yeah, that's what I can think of. What about you, Shen?
It's interesting you said follow your dreams. I think it's just tells, like, even so in my household, my parents will be the people who say, like, if you follow your dreams, that's how you become homeless. Because that
It's true. It's true.
It is very true. Yeah.
It's just that it just shows, like, even like we are very kind of a 3D person. Everyone single person, woman or Asian woman, we are all individual 3D people. We have like different dimensions. Like even us, we're not the same. We don't have the same upbringings, etc. I think I came from very, very traditional, like the expectation was like be good, be obedient, well, follow the rules, behave, just be a good student, and kind of this is kind of the framework I grew up in. Doing a good job is expected. It's more stick instead of carrots, which also impose a challenge when you work in when I work in the UK, in the Western culture, is there's a lot of encouragement. You know, when I become a parent myself, like you need to put a lot of encouragement. It's more about carrot instead of stick. You need to say thank you for people doing their job. At the beginning, it was quite confusing for me. Why am I thanking a person to do what they need to do, right? It takes me a long time to learn the art of compliment as well, like how to say it genuinely. I don't want to come across as contrived. But it's all quite interesting that, and also like how to challenge things, how to challenge authorities, because that's something not encouraged when I grew up in school or in the environment I was in. Being an outliner is something is really scary. But at work, you know, it's really important to express your disagreement effectively. It's really important to show a different opinion, and people actually value that. The organization, the company you work at get more value because the more diverse point of view there are. So
Yeah.
it is very, very different from what I have brought up in. So these are all new skills I have to learn gradually while working in the company in the UK.
Shen, you were talking there about you know, finding your voice and being okay to speak up. And Li, you mentioned that lovely confidence that you found, because it's kind of, you know what, if I moved to the UK and I did that, then I could do anything. So you have, both of you, between you have this really lovely balance of confidence and all the skills that you learned when you got here as well. So yeah, definitely. Well, I can see what Zühlke obviously snapped you both up, but you come with, you know, lovely experience and life experience as well, which is so valuable to a team. Which Shen, you just said that, you know, the just having a diverse team is so valuable.
I think also that there's an element of, because I think majority of the East Asian or South Asian upbringing is about need to do a good job of what you're given to. Learning how to be a leader instead of just being a task taker is also something that it's a natural challenge comes into the career path at some point that we're learning. And for me, it's interesting because the focus was at a certain point in my career, I realized it's more important to be respected than to be liked. I need to stop worrying about upsetting people and saying things that people might make people unhappy about, especially when I grew into kind of a more people management roles. And it is, again, these are not all new skills that, you know, people who probably grew up in the Western education system are more accustomed to. But at least from my own experience and upbringing, that it was something that I had to learn as an adult rather than being trained all my life to do.
Yes. Yeah.
I totally agree with Shen. Is I think that's the new skill. It's, you know, really how do we really make our point across and being objective and on the point, and accepting the fact that my in the Chinese term of breaking the harmony, which is harmony is very important, and that is a challenge we have to overcome. And also that comes with the subtleness of English environmental language. Sometimes you just don't know, I'm doing too much, I'm not doing enough. So your mind, you constantly have like a spectrum you're testing, right? Am I get to the point? Am I practicing my new skills, or am I in the right spectrum that I'm still respecting people and maintaining a relationship? Or am I doing too much? People might thinking I'm not being honest because it's a toxic situation. I'm not expecting you to really happy and keeping the harmony. So I think this is like a spectrum you have to finally find the sweet spot. For me, I haven't cracked it yet, so I'm constantly figuring out where that should be, but that really resonates what Shen is saying. That's a new skill.
Yeah, it's good to hear. You're always learning, I suppose. So on that is a great lead into navigating those challenges, because I wanted to ask you both a little bit about, you know, how do you navigate certain challenges, and what are some common stereotypes or misconceptions that you have encountered in your professional journey, and how have you navigated them?
I think that I think I read some articles about especially women from maybe Asian countries. I think there's or men as well. but there is a phrase called a model immigrant. So which means that people who are really be seen as, perceived as really hardworking, very diligent, they will be able to, you know, it gives them something, they're very good at execution, they're very good at doing things, making things done. But then the challenge is that the representation on the senior leadership, on the company boards are probably much, much lower, because a lot of people will see Asian women as a very good doer, but not necessarily a great leader. I'm not saying that's right or not certainly not my opinion, but it's I think that's probably one of the stereotypes, that we're not very good at saying no, we're not very good at asking for things, you know, asking for pay rise, asking for something which we might hesitate to ask, or other people might find it very easy to reach. I think being women and then ethnic minority at this intersection, it's even more so for us. I think that's probably one of the big stereotypes there is, which I think there is definitely a certain truth to it, that I do see a lot of my friends who are also Asian women or Chinese women who are struggling with it, like how to ask for things where they think they deserve at workplace, and how to do certain things. One of the eureka moment I realized a long time ago was that you know, if I get rejected, the situation just will be as bad as it is right now. So there's always something to gain there by just working on the boundary a bit and just trying to step over. But to be brave is actually a very big ask for people, and also I do find it's very challenging, that I think for Asian women, or for myself, I can speak only from my personal experience, that there's a lot of thinking, internal thinking happening about how things might play out or things might happen before we even do anything. And the burden of this eventuality or the risk is so much, will probably kind of stop us doing things. So this is something, I think that this is a challenge I still face nowadays. I would believe I got better at it, but it's still something happens. I think another stereotype is about, we see Asian women as being very productive. We, like I said, like we're very good at execution, we do things really well. And a lot of challenge people are facing will be, we feel like we work so hard, but we don't get the recognition we have. And then we realize there's other playbook happening at workplace. It's about influencing other people, about networking. It's actually not, it's about smart working rather than hard working. It's actually about being effective rather than being productive. So this is something that also, I think, not saying Asian women are not effective, but I think it's the stereotype put on people, say, okay, we can give them any work, they're going to do it well. But then if you want something kind of a more impactful or bigger skills, or out of the comfort zone, they might not be your go-to people. But I would kind of challenge people hold that belief, that actually try us. we will probably surprise you.
Yes, definitely. Lee, I can see you nodding and agreeing. Is that I loved everything that Shen just said there. I think is that something that you have experienced yourself?
Yeah, absolutely. But I think I have to say, Shen definitely have a deeper thoughts than me. Actually, I'm learning from her. I think from my experience, we share some looking at these stereotypes, and she touched a few as hardworking, but not seen as working smartly, right? And don't seem to be know how to express what we want. That's this, I feel that's well. But I think the many stereotypes, and actually I think some misunderstanding, not just not aware of the difference. I don't think it's people's fault, right? I think it's just, you know, not everybody's life is you involved with ethnic minority people around. So I discuss a lot with my husband. I think similar to Shen, my husband is a white English, so actually made a lot of things make me very conscious about to look at myself from a different perspective. And I think to be able to understand those stereotypes, it really needs feedback. is that's why I finding extremely helpful at workplace to develop your allies and to find a few people they kind of genuinely interested in you and support you, and you can be open about your feelings. So something is not quite right, and I don't know how to put it, and they will help you to create that consciousness. It's because you are thinking this way. That's what I think. So in that moment, you realize it's okay. This is a different way of thinking. There's a stereotype there, and so yeah. So I think I finding this is the tough learning curve is really about just to be really aware of what is out there. I think sometimes it's hardest. You don't know. That's the hardest situation, right? And you don't know when people might have really mistaken you for something else, or you just don't know. That's why I need those very friendly feedback. So that's why I'm always treasure people at work. I'm constantly look out wherever I go, especially workplace. People are generally open-minded. They're interested in different things, embrace difference, and they seem to look beyond. I would say that they wouldn't be so fussy about, I may say the wrong word, and not have the good accent, I made some basic spelling mistakes. They're not the person who will pick on those. They will be the one straight to really interesting. What's the point trying to make, and help me get that? I think they are the people who really help you to be aware of that, and those stereotypes, and to find a way being understood.
Yeah, definitely. And they are the companies that have really put a lot of work into that as well, and that you didn't just, find yourself within a company that was just put together that way, that, a workforce was built with a lot of care and attention to ensure that, people from lots of different backgrounds, and that they are respectful of people from lots of different backgrounds as well. And I'm sure lots of people might have come through and thought, actually, you know what, they just don't fit in here, and they, you need to be, by the sounds of it, somebody that is very inclusive and wants to work on a diverse team. So yeah, that's, I don't think we say this a lot on here, but it's not something that is built overnight. That is something that takes a lot of care and attention from a company to achieve that. So employees do feel welcomed, and feel like they want to stay as well, so they can hold on to really good talent like yourselves, instead of feeling like, actually, this isn't a place where I would like to stay and I would actually like to work, and you don't get on with your team. Say, I mean, Lee, you spoke about your team there, as if you really love, your team, and you love going to work every day, and that feeling of, it's a feeling that you go to work and feel like you want to go back the next day. That again takes a lot of work from everybody.
Yeah, absolutely, I agree.
I wanted to talk to you a little bit about cultural awareness. So what role do you believe cultural awareness and sensitivity play in fostering inclusivity within your organisations? Shen, shall we go to you first?
Yeah, I actually believe it past the time that women or ethnic minority needs to lean in. We're past the time like we have to do the hard work. I feel the organization should actually be in the driver's seat and actually make things easier. It's the typical nudge behavior, like when you make things more convenient and more right there, people are more likely to do it. So I do feel like the role companies need to play is actually setting a good example, and actually put a lot of things there, rather than ask women or ask ethnic minority or ask any type of minority people to change themselves in order to fit in the framework or the policy they have, or change themselves. Because like you said earlier, Kaylee, it's more about, how do you find a sense of belonging in the organization, is that you feel you can be more of yourself, or the best version of yourself in a difficult situation at workplace. A lot of times is, that's the place you tend to stay.
Yes, definitely. I love that you just said that. We talk about that regularly on here, about bringing your authentic self to work. And if you don't feel like you're bringing you can't do your best work every day. And also, your team knows that you're not being yourself and that you're not bringing your best self and doing your best work. So you're right, finding that place where you can be authentic and not judged for anything really makes such a difference in your day-to-day and your career, and obviously your professional development. So you're right, it's finding that not even a safe space, just a place that gets you and embraces you and encourages you to be yourself every single day. I completely agree with that. Lee, do you agree with that? And what role do you believe cultural awareness and sensitivity play in fostering inclusivity in an organisation?
Yeah, I totally agree what you said. Well said. And I think that's where kind of really inclusivity really starts. You know, to have that as a culture, as a norm. You know, you just can be yourself, and the people are different. So you don't have one stereotype. You might have many. Then you start forget about one stereotype you have to fit in. You say, never mind, too many. I can't fit into. I might just be myself, because everyone is one. And so I feel that kind of really starts. That's why I personally, I feel much more comfortable in the environment such like Zühlke now is, there's so many differences, and talking about diversity is a topic. You can just openly talking about it. You don't feel any kind of pressure or anything. I think that's a good sign is you can be yourself. And I even heard many colleagues go in the meeting would say, oh, sorry about these mistakes. English is my first language, but please focus on my point. You don't really get to say people have the confidence, even being vulnerable, but really confidence about what their unique value. I think that's a good sign. Because I've been in quite a few more kind of local companies in the mindset to be able to admit that is a big step, because sometimes that would be something you're so exposed and that shows your weakness straight away. So I see that's a sign you can just be yourself. That's where it all starts.
Yes, and why they hire you as well. Companies are looking for you to be yourself and bring your unique self. And especially as a woman, so many ladies on here, they say, I went into technology and I had very masculine managers, or I had a very male dominated team, and I almost felt like I couldn't be myself. And then I realized actually they were just looking for me to be my feminine self, bring all of my skills that come with everything with being a woman and the advantage of that. And they said it took them years in their career to figure out that actually just being myself was an advantage to me in the workplace, rather than feeling like I'm always having to suppress something and kind of not just not be myself every day in the workplace. So I completely agree on that, Lee. How important do you think it is for companies to actively address diversity and inclusion, and what steps can they take to create more supportive environments? Shen, should we start with you?
Yeah, I think I use running as an analogy. Like, how far you can run is not determined on the big things you do, but more on the kind of small things you do, like how you control your breathing, how you control postures, and it's a constant thing. It's the annoying little things you always have to look out for. So I would say how well a company can develop and be seen as progressive, or truly be progressive, is other little things they can do. I know about the big things. So by little things, I'm talking about, like we mentioned earlier, like cultivate an environment that make people heard. How you organize your meeting. Is it always a round table, or is it always like the loudest person getting heard, or people always opinionated gets the floor? Or do you try to learn some different ways, like liberating structures, like making sure everybody had a chance of voicing or participating? It's about showing up on things. For example, a lot of companies have awareness trainings, or even just talks on certain days of the year. For example, if you have your male leadership showing up on your menopause awareness things, on the sexual harassment training, all those things, it means something, right? It takes an interest in it, and people can see that, because all women will go through menopause at some point. Everybody have to deal with a menopausal colleague or interact with at some point. So it's not just something women needs to be aware, but also the male colleagues. So these are the tiny little things like people need to show interest and to be present. The other things is, like I said earlier, about having things there rather than having people ask for it. So, for example, there's a quite popular topic in the UK about, the paternity policy needs to be as much as the maternity policies, etc. Zühlke is a great place because you'll have baked in or already there, like the compressed hours, like I myself are doing compressed hours or flexible working arrangement, the things that it's readily available rather than people have to go through hurdles and fight for it. But also like another tiny small things, like I love talking to my male colleagues and female colleagues about their caregiving responsibilities. It shouldn't just be women talking about their family and their children or whatever the challenge they have in life outside workplace. I love hearing my colleagues talking about they probably have the issues and the things like that. It makes you feel much more included in the space as well. And if people who are not native English speakers, I always like to have those conversations with them about their experience as well, because a lot of us are not that dissimilar to each other in terms of our experience.
Yes, I love it. I love the fact that you mentioned it being from top down as well. And even I suppose an example there would be you went on to talk a little bit about your male colleagues and their care and responsibilities. If you see a male leader that is disappearing at a certain time because they need to go and do a school run, that kind of trickles through to the rest of the company. They kind of think, you know what, that's okay. And that is, okay to disappear and do that. And I set that boundary that at that time I go and pick up my children, whether you're male or female, and then you might be back online later or however you work. But that is something that does come from leadership, and you're so important that so right there that when you said leadership showing up for those training sessions and being involved in those things, that kind of just lets the workforce know that you're not just ticking a box sometimes and that's it, but actually it's something that your leadership team live and breathe every day. Really makes a difference to people's day-to-day lives at work, definitely.
I think the hybrid working now is quite interesting because during COVID, we probably had a scan through everybody's interior design. We probably met everybody's family, all their children and their pets at some point.
Yeah.
CEO, I think we were quite fortunate in Zühlke UK. Our CEO is a woman who has young children. It's something like you feel you can really relate to. A lot of our colleagues are, as a woman, as a mother, is something I feel like, okay, it is not something impossible. Like if they can do it, I can do it. But also occasionally see, our male colleagues as their children just show up on camera from time to time. It felt like, okay, it's normal. It's okay. I don't need to worry about it. It's all right.
Yes, I agree. That was it's quite an experience as well, getting a little insight into everybody's lives, but it did make everybody feel a bit more like, it's not just me, or it's not just me that might be having challenges in certain areas, and that's okay to, let that bleed into work occasionally, and that you're not going to be judged for it at work either. Li, yourself, how important do you think it is for companies to actively address diversity and inclusion, and what steps can they take to create a more supportive environment?
I think it's really crucial nowadays, and considering every company is thinking about to attract and retain the best talents they can in the market, and with technology break down the barrier, you can work from anywhere, so that flexibility. So I do believe the number does matter, either it's for gender differences or culture differences. And I think either in the team or in the leadership, I think that when a minority is no longer a minority, that shift to the norm. And so that makes kind of diversity inclusion, it's just not a concept, it's an action, right? So when you have, for example, if you are the only woman or ethnic minority woman in the group, a male group, and naturally conversation will move towards male topics is not sometimes not even probably be they consciously doing that. It's just naturally. Even the same, if a group of ladies and only one man, and the conversation was very different. So I think it's important to actually have a balanced number, which it doesn't matter, set of the balance. And the second, I feel company needs to be actually open the door more for ethnic minority and ethnic minority women. I just considering we are still going through the changes, and there's still a lot to do. That means the any promotion criteria or career change criteria that could be already being biased. So that means the ethnic minority woman is already far behind even at this consideration stage. So I think extra effort actually to keep the door wide open, provide more opportunities. It would just, balancing out, putting everybody at a similar starting line. But I see the difference after pandemic, and in the company in Zühlke now is, we were openly talking about what we're doing and the differences, and I think I would say it's the first company I worked with I can be so open about just being myself. I think that's a really good sign. But I feel, that's just part of the beginning of it. There's still a lot to do to really make the change, not just for Zühlke. I think Zühlke is doing well, and I think the whole environment to really bring the best out of everyone.
Yes, definitely. I love the fact you talked about opening a door there as well and breaking down those it's unconscious biases. I think that ties into having people on the hiring panel as well that you can relate to. So when you do go, there are people there that you think, you know what, that person reminds me of them, or it seems like it's going to be a very inclusive environment. And then when that happens, you naturally start to build more of an inclusive environment. People from lots of different backgrounds want to come on board as well, because it does work both ways when you get in an interview, and sometimes you think, maybe this isn't for me actually, and I went for the interview and I don't want to work there. So if you see more people that you can relate to at that stage, then you think, yes, I would love to go and work for that company.
And actually, just go back to interview part. It reminds me actually, this is when we get hired. You reminded me actually when I run an interview for clients. So because we design things, we're running interview clients, because sometimes I was the owning non-white interviewer in the meeting, and if we actually aim to work with very diverse user groups, sometimes I could feel the straight warmth coming from them, seeing me there. There's oh, okay, actually, people feel close. So to accepting or appreciate as a kind of a quite diverse a team to do things for them, that's already paying back. So that's why I truly believe, when we have very diverse team, and it results to diverse contribution to the society, and that's the moment actually we really expand our impact. But I think first one, we need to get a tangible people in there first, right?
Yes, definitely, and then it benefits everybody in the long run. Ladies, we're almost out of time, but I wanted to ask you one last question, and you've both already provided a lot of brilliant advice throughout this, but what advice would you give to other ethnic minority women who are navigating similar challenges in their career? Shen, should we start with you?
Sure. I would say the most important thing is that there are a lot of good resources out there, right? I'm a podcast person, so there are a lot of good podcasts like the HBR's Women at Work podcast, this Squiddly Career podcast, that they offer very tangible things of being a woman, how you can navigate your work challenges, and there's a practical guide there. But for me, it's more important, the best resources actually is the people surrounding you. So I would say join a network or join a tribe, but if it doesn't exist at your workplace, start one. So I am part of a organization, non-profit organization called the Chinese Women in the City, and then this is something that I found a few years back, and there's a lot of things we discovered that actually my problem is not only mine. a lot of people were sharing the similar issues. There's a platform for people almost like to share your experiences, ask the advice in a very, like you said, a very safe place. People who are having, you don't have to explain the basics, explain the context again. People already got that. So that's something is quite valuable. So I would encourage everybody either join a group or create one themselves. Yeah.
Yeah, I love that. So if you don't have one, start one. Why not? I mean, just to help other ladies, and you're at to hear the more people that share that we're all, you know, feeling the same things, that you're having similar thoughts to people, other people as well. It's just, you know, the more that people hear that, the more that it helps other people move into their next role, and to excel into that role. So yeah, that's brilliant advice to join one or start one. I do like the idea of starting one. Is really good advice. Lee, yourself.
I would really like to share. I think it's one of the things I have been practicing. I'm still learning. Is really to let go certain imperfection, just accepting we're not going to be the same as a native speaker. That's fine. We can own that. But I think the key is to really have a point and really own it. And this is coming after many painful experiences. Like, for example, I would prepare a deck and go to a PowerPoint presentation, go to CEO, and it turns out spend 2 days working on it. Then I get picked on, my spelling is not right, and my this is not quite right, totally missing the point, and it's really dreadful. So after experience all of that many times, I come to the point I would advise anyone just accepting that, but really challenge yourself to look beyond. And you know, I just focus on what's the point, the point we're trying to make. And I think that's what I have really learned the most. And I would really give an advice to some of my team members when they know native speakers and are facing the challenge and they worry about certain things. I just said, you know what's the point? If you have got a point, straight to that, and just challenge people to look beyond. And it's hard to do, as I said, but I think I had my aha moment quite late. I think it would be useful for others to have that moment earlier, would make their life a lot easier.
Yes, that's really good advice. Yeah, and you're right to embrace you, and to you know, think that's okay, and to also empathize with other people if you see that in other people. But again, another brilliant advantage that you bring to a workforce, and all the incredible skills that both of you have built up from your experiences and backgrounds, that you will bring into your professional development and your day-to-day at your company. So ladies, I could keep talking to you on this subject for several more hours. It has been so interesting chatting with you both. So thank you so much to Shen and Li for coming on here and having a chat with us today. It's been an absolute pleasure.
Thank you very much.
Thank you for having us. Thank you.
And to everybody listening, as always, thank you so much for joining us, and we hope to see you again next time.